Hi, I'm Dr. Cindy Joseph of The Wish Fulfilled, and today we're bringing in a brand new kind of episode. We are interviewing one of my colleagues and friends who have had a spiritual awakening. We're talking about things related to spiritual awakening, resilience, finding love within. All these things are things that I think resounds around a spiritual awakening journey, and I can't wait to get into this episode. I want to introduce my guest, Mr. Rodney Little. Hi,
Hello.
Rodney.
Hello, hello. Good to see you, Cindy.
Of course. So, Rodney, I'm doing something totally different with this episode where I want to be able to share with people different types of spiritual awakening journeys.
Yeah.
And because I went through my own and I honestly just didn't know who to talk to. It felt like I was like a solo person in a pond, and it feels so kind of like out of earth sometimes that you don't feel like anyone could really, really relate with you.
Yeah.
So take me back to the moment or the season where you had your spiritual awakening journey. What do you think triggered it?
So I'll say, so I know the moment, and I thought about this. I know the exact moment, down to almost like the exact day. I had, and as you know, right, we both grew up in strong religious environments to a degree, and so having lived that life and kind of not kind of but separating from it, right, looking for my own unique path. I became successful by most metrics, but I would also say a very unfulfilled, right?
Mm,
Like there wasn't fulfillment in the things that I would do. I would choose to attempt to find fulfillment in my accomplishments, right? But that really didn't fulfill me. And then yeah, I had been in therapy for over 10 years, right? And that, though it helped a lot, there were still parts of me that I felt that I was not connected to. Parts of me that felt that I didn't know how to give the proper love and attention. And so when we talk about when that awakening happened, I had struggled with porn addiction for most of my life. And a lot of men do, a lot of people, not just men, a lot of people do, but men especially. And I had for years tried to wean off. I would go months sometimes, maybe even a year or two was the longest I went. But it was more of a fight and a repression than anything else. And when you're constantly fighting something, and every time you have that fight to yourself, you lose. You get to the point of defeated, right? It's almost like learned helplessness to a degree, right? Where no matter what I do, I still end up feeling as if I've failed and I've lost to this thing. I don't have the control over myself to say no to it. And I got to the point where I just gave up. I just gave up because, and in that same time, right, I had also been in an accident, so I couldn't walk for several months, so I gained a bunch of weight. I wasn't able to exercise, right? It's just, and then I had some family issues happen to where I couldn't speak to my family, and it was just like, okay, so all these things are like happening, right? All these things are happening.
creating the perfect storm.
Yeah. So this is I would say there's two, maybe two. This is the first one, and I find out through some channels of something a psychedelic called DMT, and I had heard about it years ago, but through my research, it's more of a spiritual thing. So you have to be in the right communities, and I didn't know any of those communities, and as things turned out, I ended up meeting someone who was in one of those communities. We had talked about it, and she put me in touch with some of the spiritual practitioners. And I remember the night that I went to go do the ceremony, and I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, my only thing that I want from this is to surrender because I'm just tired of fighting this thing. Like I'm exhausted from meditation, fasting, praying. Any avenue that I could think of, pilgrimage to say, okay, this thing shouldn't have any control over me.
Right.
None of those things worked. And so I remember that next day when I went to the ceremony, and I even watched porn that night. And I was like, all right, this is gonna be the last time I watch porn. And I went. They were very welcoming, very inviting. And I took the medicine. There was prayer involved and everything. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt the separation from the addiction, and I felt it literally like physically leaving my body. And as I was feeling this, and I'm in this experience, right? The whole experience lasts about 15 minutes. It's a very short window. And as I'm feeling this thing like physically leave, I also feel it not wanting, almost like a separate entity, if you will, like it, in a sense of the sadness that I was feeling wasn't me. It was the fact that I had been holding on to this thing all this time, thinking that I couldn't let it go. When in actuality, it was this thing couldn't exist without me. And those are two very kind of different things, right? It means I I had this moment where I realized that because of the exposure to this thing, what I heard was, as it was leaving, what I heard was, now you can have kids, which it hit me because the reason why I chose all this time to not have children isn't because I didn't want to have them. It was
Mhm.
because I was terrified of passing on an addiction to them that my family
Mhm.
passed on to me and be powerless to help them. The idea that I would bring a life in this world only to give them a burden that I couldn't even heal or help heal. I couldn't do that. I would not do that. And so I
Yeah.
that and I didn't even realize I was hurting in that way. And all this like came to me in the span of like 15 minutes. Like all of this happened in the span of 15 minutes. And while I was saying this, I kept saying, "You have to let me go. You have to let me go. You have to let me go." And I realized that that was me understanding that this thing that has been in my life for so long, as much as I didn't want it to be there, the comfort that it gave me, the
Mm.
comfort that I chose to find
Mhm.
in it, I
Mhm.
didn't want to let that go. The
I want to.
relationship that I built with it, right? What I didn't want is the feeling of guilt that came after.
Yeah.
But the relationship with it, that's what I was holding, that comfort you
Felt
get, right?
familiar.
The familiarity.
Yeah.
And the sadness that I was feeling was me letting go and saying, this relationship does not serve me.
I want to ask this question here. What do you think about the psychedelic process that allowed you to connect so quickly? Do you have any thoughts around like why that method was more effective over a different method for you?
Yeah, and when you say methods, I have been on all kinds of medication, from anxiety, depression, diagnosed with different different ways of perceiving. Let me say it like that.
Mm.
And so, I think I say all that to say, like, for comparison, right? I've tried medicines, I've tried mantras, I've tried other avenues.
Mhm.
I think one thing, and I think you probably heard this phrase, is like synchronicity,
Mhm.
right? When you are in a space to be open to what is for you, things will align for that to come into play. And it
Mhm.
got to the point to where I had given up and
Mhm.
said, I don't know what else to do. And at that moment, an avenue opens up that says, because you are ready to surrender control,
Mm.
here is what has been for you all this time.
So very, very, very important point here. The first one I want to mention is how you just frame that, right? How sometimes spirit source God can be trying to connect with you,
Yeah.
but the noise is so much via the world and what you got going on with work and family and etc. that the only way to get your attention is to cause these points in your life to occur where you feel like it's like a breaking point for you. And
Yes.
so you put yourself in a position where you're at a point of like surrender, and you are letting go all of your own might in exchange for his. You're letting go a lot of your
Yeah.
own will in
Yes.
exchange for what he has to offer. It's like this is the path I've been forging. I don't like it, but I'm open to what you're ready to offer me. And I believe that's what happened in that moment. The other thing was with regards to psychedelics. I think that like in my process with meditation, and with the process of psychedelics, I think it's about the same thing. It's
Yeah.
about being able to detach from your actual world and then just go into the subconscious, because the conscious is going to tell you, hold up, I don't know, is this working? Da, da, da. It's going to ask so many questions. But when you focus on just the subconscious, like what's beneath, and there's no deterrent, you're allowed to like really reach into your actual soul and be able to reach into the truth of you. And I believe that is the process that happens with these spiritual awakenings, is being able to access your subconscious more clearly and more succinctly. I just want to hear your thoughts on
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I would say something. I was speaking to a young woman a few weeks ago, and she confided in me that she had a breakdown,
Mhm.
and I and you are aware that I'm on this place now where I don't see things in terms of like negative or positive. I don't see
Right.
things in terms of good or bad, right
It's
or
one of the
wrong.
lessons you've
Everything's
learned.
lessons. Even if the lesson is hurting me,
Mhm.
right? Even if it's unpleasant, it's still
Mhm.
teaching me something. And
Mhm.
so without skipping a beat, and I said, well, that's great because every breakdown, conversely, is a breakthrough because you have to get that low to be open to what is actually for you. Because
Mhm.
really what's happening is you're the one that's just fighting you. You're trying to keep a reality that is no longer serving you and it is exhausting you. And that's what's really happening is, and a lot of times, let's be honest, most of the time, and up until a certain point of spiritual and emotional maturity, you are the one keeping your chaos the way that it is. You are
Mhm.
the one keeping the
Yeah.
pain the way that it is because it
Yeah.
is familiar. And a lot of times it's us projecting and wanting a reality that has never existed, right? Wanting a reality where, and I'll talk personally, right? Like family. One of the hardest truths that I had to come to accept was my family will never be who I envision them to be because
Mhm.
those are only my desires of them for me. It's not who they actually are. And the
Mhm.
reason I can't see them for who they actually are is because I'm not seeing me for who I actually am.
Mhm.
I've still got a projection of who I should be on me versus being my authentic self, right? Who I need to be for everybody else.
Mhm.
And and so to get to the point where we're talking about these moments where essentially these points that you talked about are where all those layers, all those barriers, all those walls, all those cognitive traits, that tricks that you have, right? All these things that I've put in place. So one
Mhm.
person said to me once, I feel like I'm in a cage when it comes to trying to grow. And I said, well, let's have a different perspective. What if that cage that you talk about, or rather, he said, I feel trapped. I said, what if that trap is really a cage you built to protect yourself? Right, as a child or a young person, when you don't know what to do, your brain goes into a place, and you know about this, right? You will
Mhm.
find ways to protect yourself,
Yeah.
even if those ways don't make any sense, right?
And even if those ways don't
Don't
help
even work
you, that
exactly.
doesn't work. Yeah.
And but then you don't fully understand that again, right? This is your body and your nervous system, your spirit,
Mhm.
everything working. And as you mature and you realize, well, these things aren't serving me, but they're comfortable, they're familiar, they've
Mhm.
been with me all this time,
Yes.
right? They've been my partners. When people left me, I had food. When someone hurt me, I had I had substance, right, or
Mhm.
alcohol. And so, how can I betray the one thing that has always been there for me?
Mhm.
And that is the nature of the relationship with whatever you want to call it, that people have to sacrifice and say this no longer serves me. And that is it is easy and it is hard. It is easy because once you see it, you can't unsee it, but it
Mhm.
is hard in that you have to make a conscious choice to not hold on to something that has been granting you comfort because the same comfort that it's granting you is also hurting you. It's also keeping you in cases.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps you in this bubble, right? And it's not even just the substance or the external
Mhm.
thing outside of us. It's also the stories that we tell
Yeah.
about ourselves. Like,
Ooh, yes.
if you say that I was born and raised in, this type of shelter and this type of home and this is who I am and blah 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 blah. Like this, you tell that story over and over, and you grip it so tightly. I remember sitting across someone, and every question that I had was, I could have said, "It's the sky blue." Well, my mama said the sky was blue, but she was lying about that too. It just kept turning to like a different direction, and I had to stop her and say, "Listen, I think you're really attached to your story. I think you're
Mm.
really attached to your drama. There's an attachment that can happen to that story where you can say that I don't like this, I don't like feeling depressed, I don't like feeling this, I don't feel like feeling that, but at
Mhm.
the same time, you can grip onto it so closely because sometimes the feeling of depression or the feeling of anxiety is so comforting to you that you are
Yeah.
really, truly not ready to let it go. And that level of like awareness and authenticity and being able to be honest with yourself is what you need to break through. It's exactly the thing that you need to break some light into your world.
And it is
So,
so beautiful. I'm sorry. It just, as you were saying, and I'm saying, there is so much work in it, and it is not always pleasant. But the
Mm,
rewards of when
mhm,
as you see yourself becoming your more authentic self, as you begin to love in healthier ways, as you begin to appreciate yourself even more. Oh
mm.
my God, like
Yeah,
that
the sky.
feeling. Some
Yeah,
people grew up with that.
yeah.
I had to grow up with the lack of it so that I could truly appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like,
It's similar to the girl who is constantly finding herself in the same type of relationship, but then when she finally find herself in a healthy relationship, she don't know how to act. Like, what is this? This feels weird. Like, it's the same exact way that you were so caught up on the old story and the old you and the old way of doing things that it's hard to really put your hands around something that is freeing.
and I think if we were to talk about that in a sense of, and I'm going back to family, right? But even in friendships and relationships, and even in jobs, right? When you start having when you start having that awakening, as you begin to see things more from a holistic and healthier perspective, you get to make those choices of, does this still help me? Does this
Mhm,
still guide me, right? To the point that you're making, right? Like finding herself in that same relationship over and over again, and you get in that healthy relationship and you have those feelings, and now you're uncomfortable with healthy, which is very telling,
mhm,
right? It's very telling that something that is actually benefiting you causes you discomfort.
mhm,
And and those are one of those conversations that when you have with yourself, it's like, okay, I got work to do.
mhm.
Because if it doesn't become I have work to do, it then becomes me going back to what was familiar.
Yeah, and that is easier. It's an easier road. That road is paved, like the snow has been plowed.
I know how to do that. I know how
Right.
to complain about that. I know how
Yeah.
to be upset about that. I'm
Yeah.
really good at it, by the way.
Yeah. So you have this psychedelic
Yeah.
experience. You connect with yourself in a way that feels freeing,
Yeah.
and you release.
Addiction, you can call it whatever, and whatever, the name doesn't even matter. It's gone.
Right. You
Yeah.
you release these anchors, right? These
Yeah.
negative anchors that has been like pulling you down or pulling onto you for so long.
Yeah.
And what does that feel like, number one? And what does life look like for you moving forward?
So I want to tell you what happened the night of, because I think that'll help you, and I'll kind of answer part of question one.
Okay.
And really quick about the DMT session, I want to say that the people who were around me with that really helped because they were very non-judgmental.
Okay.
And so in that moment, to the point of you are just raw consciousness, like you are literally all of your guards, all of your safety nets. It's just raw you,
Mhm.
and it is terrifying and amazing at the same time. I felt literally like one, but also I felt the healingness of all of that, right? Me letting go. So I want to say that the night of
Why terrifying?
it's terrifying because I'll say this, I've spent most of my life building up who I think I needed to be for everybody else.
Mm.
And for the first time, it was like, nope. As a matter of fact, whatever layers you work through therapy, we're going to just blow past those. We're going
Mm.
to go right to, oh, here's inner child and here's complete self. Exposed.
Oh.
Exposed. It is literally like a rocket ship. Like you are just launched. There is no come up. It is there.
Mhm.
And you don't have and there's no fighting it. Like you can't try to fight it. It's just at a point you're like, oh yeah, this is done. This is like me fighting Tyson in his prime. There's no match here. There's no match here. And because I came in with the intention of surrendering,
Mhm.
it did what it had to do. So, but that night I went back home. I had a friend delete all of my porn, and it was a lot. But he's not as tech savvy as he thought, so I found a way to restore all of it. So I did.
Okay.
Just to say that I would keep some, right? Just say I would keep some. And that night
Uh-huh.
I had a dream that I was at an airport, and I was at my terminal, and I was trying to find my gate, and the machine wouldn't work. So I went on my phone, that wouldn't work. I tried to call someone, that wouldn't work. And I'm
Mhm.
getting really frantic because I'm like, oh my God, this is my flight. I don't want to miss my flight. And I start crying and yelling and saying, I cannot miss this flight. And I wake up and I realize, and literally all I hear in my spirit is, you just had this amazing experience where for
Mhm.
the first time in your life, you don't have that addiction. Are you really going to give that up? And I said no. And I went and I deleted everything,
Mhm.
every drop of it. And to
Mhm.
this day, I have not watched it.
Mhm.
And so that's that first question. And I will say this, right? Has there been moments where at a point in time where I missed it? 100%. And the reason I say that, and that's okay, because for most of my life, that was my comfort, right? That was something that when I was hurting emotionally or physically or spiritually or mentally, it gave me comfort. Was it healthy? No. But was it comfort? Yes. And so it is okay for me to mourn the parts of
Absolutely.
me that needed that,
Yeah.
that chose to need that, right? It's okay for me to mourn that because if I'm mourning it, that means I'm understanding and accepting that it has transitioned to somewhere else. If I don't mourn it, that means I'm really trying to keep it alive. It's the act of grieving the man that needed that. It's the act of grieving the loss of that comfort and now saying, I've got to find that comfort within myself. Not go try to find a new activity to give me comfort, but to ask myself, when in those moments of distress, can I be enough for me? And the answer is yes. And so I made the transition to figuring out, well, Rodney, what do you enjoy doing? What brings you, what puts a smile on your face? And the more that I began to be my authentic self, the fewer masks that I wore, the more I let my original self be seen, the more all these things just started happening to where my life is now aligning and for lack of better words, manifesting the things that I want, the people that I want, the friends that I want, the lifestyle that I want. Like everything is just lining up because I'm being more authentically me, and I grieve when I need to grieve. I get angry when I need to get angry. I get mad when I need to get mad. And then I choose to say that thank you for helping me understand myself, but I don't have to stay in any one of those places. And that to me is growth, healing, maturity, and authenticity. Is that everything is always teaching me something.
I heard a couple things.
Yeah.
One thing that I know is that you manifest who you are. God
Yes.
gives you exactly who you are, but we can't really manifest and be anything that we want to be if we're not authentically ourselves. If you are
Yes.
walking around with a mask or you're parading as someone else or something else, then God can't penetrate through that to give
Mm.
you what you're asking for because you're not even truly being yourself. So the road to authenticity is one that is such a beautiful journey, but it does require that crashing where you have
Yeah.
to let go of the old self to really
Yes.
rediscover your true self. And one thing about that true self is your truest self has all of the virtues that you have always wanted. Like it is made of love, it's made of peace, it's made of harmony, it's made of joy. That is more aligned with the qualities of your truest self. And I actually love, love, love this part because I had a, if I can speak on this, I had like a recent awareness where God brought to my attention that when I was younger, I was in elementary school and there was like this other girl who was of my same age in my grade school. And she was like more of the popular girl and I was who I was, but she walked up to me and was like, "You're ugly." And
Damn.
God brought that to my attention because it's a memory that I have, but it's not a memory that I feel like I go back to and tell a story about all the time. So it's not in my
Yeah.
consciousness, right?
Yeah. I know
And
that. I
so
know that. Yeah.
the reason why he brought that to my attention is that we get so much information in this world that we can passively accept it. Right. And at that age, I was not at an age where I had a stronger conviction that what she was saying was not true. And so I passively accepted it. And in that moment, I also shut down. And so I have triplets. Two of them are girls, one of which is just a firecracker. She screams to the top of her lungs just to say hello. Like, hi! She just goes crazy. And she is of a darker hue than her sister. And she's just like so full of life. And I'm looking at her and I'm just enjoying how she's just authentically herself and she just loves life and she just moves in such a way. And she's two. And our earliest memory doesn't start until about three. So I keep thinking to myself, like, she's going to be this person until, whenever, right? And I can think to myself, like, had I had a similar experience where I was also full of life and I was also someone who just enjoyed life and was happy and joyful, and then something happened, but I can't remember prior to the age of two who I was
Yeah.
in my current self right now, but all my earliest memory is this. And I know in that moment when she said what she said, I decided to fade into the background. I decided to cower within myself. I decided to be just a small piece of who I actually am. if I like track through my entire life, I can say that I have always been this shy person, someone who is like slow to warm and everything else. And honestly, I am not. As I go into this spiritual reawakening journey and I'm connecting with my authentic self, I find that I'm a very joyful, fun,
Yep.
loud, similar
Yep.
to my daughter type of girl. And that is who I truly am. And so even the identity trait of I'm an introvert is not true. I'm rediscovering even that piece of what the labels that we allow to just be attached to us just because they're not true. So I wanted to say that small tidbit to say that this journey of like being authentic is a beautiful one, but you
It
really have
is.
to let go of that old
Yeah.
self.
So I'm gonna share what happened with you today at the barbershop, right? So today we were talking and I'm getting ready to leave, and it's a black barbershop. Black things happen. I ain't gonna get into all the details. But one of the young men there, because I had some protein like peanut butter rolls or whatever, and I was showing some people, and so one of the young guys asked me like, "How do you stay disciplined and motivated?" And I said to him, "Well, people have it wrong in that they are looking for someone to motivate them. They're looking for something outside of themselves to inspire them for them." I said, "You want to know why I work out?" And I don't know if you have to mute this. But I love looking at myself in the mirror naked. I am fascinated with it. It is my
Yeah,
favorite hobby, my favorite thing to
yeah,
do in my spare time.
yeah.
I am infatuated with me. I look wonderful. So I said, you know what my motivation is? My motivation doesn't come from me just looking good. My motivation is that I show up for myself. I
Mhm.
choose to love myself in a healthy way. And if that is something that I love doing and I enjoy how my body looks, why wouldn't I do that more? If I truly care about me and I want to change or grow in a certain way, it's not that I need to be motivated to do that. It's that I make the choice to do that thing. And as that choice and making that choice changes and involves me, I now have found the motivation to keep going because it's called consistency. And now that I've made that growth and that change, I don't want to go back to who I was before. Why? Like, why would I go back to who I was when who I am is what I needed to be? So as I was telling this to him, my barber just looks at me. The new barber looks at me. He's like, man, you are one of a kind. He's like, this is the second client that you've met that you've impressed.
It's
And
flowing
I
through you.
Yeah, and I said thank you because the other day I mentioned this to you. I bought a new. I support Black art by buying it. Found
Mhm.
an artist that I really liked her work. Bought two of her paintings, and we ended up having a conversation. And she said everything you said to me is exactly what I needed to hear. Like you have no idea just how every word that you said was. I needed to hear all of that. And in my spirit, there is this joy because it's not me minimizing it. It's not me
Mhm.
fighting it. It's not me
Mhm.
belittling it. It's not me avoiding it. It's me naturally being me, and it makes me happy.
Yeah. It's that rediscovery of self, and there's a realignment that's happening, that alignment is resonating with every person you meet. There is something else that
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
for you with your spiritual awakening journey, and it is self-love. Can you and you kind of alluded to some of that a little bit,
Oh,
but
yeah.
walk me through how things have shifted for you with regards to that.
Man, I talk to myself. Okay, I'll tell you something. I don't know where I heard this from, but years ago, it was look at yourself in the mirror and say I love you. And I would struggle with that. I would struggle. Like it felt weird, and I don't remember what was the catalyst for me to continue to do it. But one day I was like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I did. And I would look myself in the eye in the mirror and say, Rodney, I love you. And as I kept doing that, right, as I started being more comfortable with it.
Mhm.
And as I've matured in my journey, I realized that okay, I'm just gonna be transparent. Um, I realized that in all of the relationships that I've been in, even the ones with the people I did love, I wasn't actually looking for love. I was looking for someone to help heal my trauma. I was looking for a relationship to be so strong that it would overshadow all the love I did not receive as a child.
Mhm.
And that realization at one point would have crushed me, but because I understand that everything is a lesson, I felt the pain of it. I said,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I will heal from. Not what I'm trying to heal from. This is what I am healing from. This is now
Mhm.
that I understand it, right? So you're asking about self-love. And what I'm getting at is I had these two very painful childhood memories. The first was the first time that I felt unloved from my father when I went and hugged him and he didn't hug me back.
Mhm.
And I later found out through audio recording of my grandmother where she basically said that my father does not know how to show affection, and he never did, and that he had never even told his own mother that he loved her. So as a young man, a baby, right? When you're, and I was probably about 4, because I remember what I was wearing. So about 4 years old. I didn't, as a child, did not know how to process that emotion. That was new for me because I'd only felt love up until that point, as far as I was aware, as far as I could be aware right now. And then the second memory was Christmas of 1990. I was 6 years old. I wanted to see my mother. I wasn't living with her. Long story short, I begged my entire family to take me to my mother's apartment. They literally told me my mother didn't want me, right? Repeatedly. So when I finally get someone to take me there and I'm screaming and crying and all that stuff, I get to her apartment and she asked me, "Why did you come here?" And those two memories
Yeah. Crushing.
have, to this, up until recently, have been guiding my love life, my
Mhm.
relationships, my
Mhm.
friendships, my
Mhm.
business decisions, how I pay things, how I view myself, what I
Mhm.
purchase, all of it, right? Because if I can feel the lack of that I can attempt to feel the lack of that love with things,
Mhm.
with people, right? With risky decisions, gambling, like all those things to try to help me mask it. And so when we get to self-love, the other night I had a moment where the feelings just hit, and I was crying, I was screaming, I was yelling, and I'm okay with all of it because these are my true feelings. And I said, "Okay, you have a choice. You can carry this anger and this hurt with you, and you can attract more of it throughout your life, or you can choose to have compassion on them and have compassion on you. And if you do that, you will attract more of that in your life." So I first had to forgive myself and say, I no longer need to hold on to these things, this
Mhm.
pain. And even though it hurt me, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel that. Who I am right now, right? If I didn't have those moments, I would not exist in the way that I exist right now.
Mhm.
And and then I had to have compassion on myself and say, "Rodney, you have only ever operated in the capacity that you knew how to operate in. And it is not fair for you to look down on you. And if I can do that with me, then I can look at my parents and say, what does a 16-year-old teenager and a 15-year-old teenager know on how to raise a man?" They, even though they hurt me, to their ability, they were operating at their best capacity. And how can I be angry at a 16 and a 15-year-old for not knowing how to love me?
Mhm.
And so then I did something differently. I said to both of those inner children, and I went to both of those moments and I said, "He will never hug you. He will never show you love. It's just not in him. But if you give me the chance, I will
Mhm.
pick you up. I will play with you. I will tickle you. I will laugh with you. We'll roll on the floor. Whatever it takes to put a smile on your face, if you let me." And I picked both of them up. And in both of those moments, I said, "This is the memory that we will have going forward. This is the memory I choose to have. This is the memory that will serve me going forward." And every time I think about that, I go right back to those moments where I'm laughing as a child, where I'm feeling love and joy, because that is the reality I choose to live in. And that to me is self love.
That is layered. It is incredibly layered from being able to see it from their perspective, and not put yourself in a victim standpoint, um, but really seeing it from different angles to help to usher in the healing. And then being able to identify your past selves, your inner child, and say that we are loved and we will always be loved. And this is from this moment on, this is what this is the direction we're going into. That
Yes.
is incredible to have done that. And I can only imagine how crushing those two experiences may have been for such a younger child. Yeah, definitely can see how that was kind of defining for a long time for you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful work that you're doing in this journey. Is there anything that you would offer to listeners who are on a similar path where they are hitting a point of like, I'm about to give up, or hitting a point where they just need to release some things, but are holding so tightly to narratives and stories that kind of keep them in the same place and want to usher a new beginning for themselves? Is there anything that you would offer to listeners who may be in that position?
Yeah. Give up.
Let it go.
Give up. Like it's the universe, source, God, whatever name you want to give it,
Right.
is telling you that you holding on isn't working. And the things that you're holding on to, the persona, the reality, the people, insert it, the idea of who you should be, or who, or what you should be, where you should be. If it's causing you this much pain, like, is it worth it? Right? I lived with depression most of my life, and not just for those two issues, right? And I was like, I don't want to be depressed anymore. I didn't know what happiness looked like for me. I thought happiness had to look like what everyone else happiness is, and thankfully through, psychedelics, especially with DMT, I've done several sessions, and I remember the first time I felt happy. I saw this picture of me as a little boy with like some blue denim jean shorts, a blue shirt, and a red balloon, and he was jumping in the sky playing with it. And the laugh and the smile on his face was so beautiful. And I was just laughing because I remember that childhood laughter of, I don't have to pay bills. I don't have responsibilities. Right? Mortgage sounds like a cute word that I can't pronounce. Right?
Many letters.
What are these symbols you call letters?
Yeah.
Right. Before like that kind of just carefree, pure, like your daughter, right? And I noticed I was laughing and I said, wow, he's happy. Then it's like, yeah, Rodney, you are happy. And I was like, I am happy. And it wasn't looking like what everyone else, what I thought happiness. It was, no, it was all me. It was looking at my life and being like, wow, look at where I've come from. Look at how much healthier I am. Look at all the wonderful people around me. Look at how what right, and it's are there things I could choose to complain about? Yes. But what's the point? Why not look at the things that are going great and just add more of that to my life? And I think that's what I would leave them with, is it's about your perception, what you choose to perceive. If you want to look at all the negative things in the world, that is what you'll see, that is what you'll attract. But if
Yeah.
you choose to look at the beauty in life, to be grateful for what you have, regardless of where you are, and actually understand, and it's not about that things could be worse. It's like, no, you get to be alive right now. Even if it's hurting, you get to be here. And for a lot of us, we get to choose what we want to do. And that is not for everyone. And so I would leave them with this, is if you make the choice to change how you perceive things and to look for the good, to look for the grateful, to look for things to be grateful about, to look for people to be grateful about, and to be grateful about yourself, there is no way you will not step into your authenticity. It is not possible, because gratitude is the path.
It is.
Authenticity is the path. Like, and doesn't mean you're going to be a great person. It just means you're authentically you, which is beautiful in and of itself. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing some of the most deepest
Of course.
parts of yourself. This journey is not easy, but it is beautiful in all its wraps and turns and
Yes.
curves. It's absolutely gorgeous. I honestly want to give you like a virtual hug because, oh my God,
I'm
like
sure there's an app for that somewhere.
thank you so much for sharing. This has been another episode of The Wish Fulfilled. If you're looking to work with me, I have a link below in the description where I am offering my course and then also offer one-on-ones. I would love to work with you. Also, if you are in your spiritual awakening journey and you would like to be featured on this episode, send me an email at josephlifecoaching@gmail.com and I would love to have you featured on here. I love these stories and I think that it's really helping to usher in this new wave that we're moving into. And so I am so, so, so excited that this episode is hallmarked with Rodney Little
Thank you.
sharing his journey. Thank you again.